Welcome back. Last week, Russia signed an agreement allowing a significant increase of military presence in Syria in an effort to assure long-term assistance to Assad. Ron, do you see an end to the Syrian conflict anytime soon? And how do you think our new president will play a role in the ultimate peace in that nation?
I think he will get us to the table because Turkey's involved in it now. You've got Turkey that's involved with the Syrian deal. Turkey said there's no way that they could go forward as long as Assad was there. So now with what Russia is doing, with more military presence there, I do look for the United States to be brought into the negotiating table to talk about the issue. Something has to happen. That you can't allow Aleppo to run countrywide and everybody be killed or exterminated from Syria. But
Colin, we've talked about how Donald Trump is very unpredictable and he's not your Joe average president. Does that hurt us or help us in this issue with Syria? Do they look at him and say, man, I better straighten up or this guy might come?
Well, I think you actually bring up a really good point, and here's what I would say about that. We had this disastrous line in the sand policy that led to a large degree to what happened in Syria. And Ron's absolutely right. The humanitarian disaster that's in Syria cannot continue. We have to stop this. I mean, Syria was at one point one of the more advanced countries in that area, and it's gone to it's become a complete disaster.
Yeah.
So Russia, and I understand Turkey's position. Turkey is a country that has a pretty long northern border in the Caucasus with Russia. They are sandwiched between Russia on the northern border and now Russian presence on their southern border in Syria.
They're a little nervous.
By the same token, I think the answer to this whole thing is we need to re-examine the entire map of the Middle East. Syria probably can't survive within the borders that were defined before this whole situation occurred.
So who does that?
The international community will have to do that because otherwise it will not be accepted. So Russia can't do that. And Russia, I can guarantee you, wants to return Syria to its, or at least it's promising to Assad, they're going to return Syria to its previous border. The Kurdish area will not go back into Syria. If Syria thinks that they can take that area over, they're buying themselves 20 years of civil war at least. Because you have a fairly autonomous, if not independent, Iraqi Kurdistan that is going to support them. That is actually a fairly wealthy area because of oil and some other things. ISIS needs to be dealt with. So my thought process on this, if you were to ask me, not that anybody ever would, is what is the solution to the Syrian crisis, or is going to be really what should have happened in Iraq as well? A partition, whether it's a federal system or an outright partition. You need to separate the Kurdish area from the Sunni area from the Alawite area, which is the Sunni area, which is what Assad is, the area around Damascus. And if you do that, you're going to separate the people who are naturally fighting one another. The tensions that exist in Syria, and remember, Assad's father did exactly the same thing in the early 80s. He killed hundreds of thousands of people during the failed revolt against him. So same thing that happened in Iraq. There are these tensions that are based ethnically and religiously between the Kurds, the Shias, and the Sunnis that are occurring because the French and the British, when the Ottoman Empire collapsed, they decided to take the map and say, okay, here's a border, here's a border, here's a border, and they jammed all these people that really historically didn't like one another into the same countries and gave one group the ability to rule over the other groups, which is really what happened. So Iraq, the Sunnis under Saddam was a Sunni. The Sunnis were oppressing everybody else. Guess what? We threw them out. Then the Shias came to power and they're oppressing the Sunnis.
So now here we go. Now here we go with a great accurate lesson in history there. I was hoping you would add Palestine and Israel.
I was ready to go there.
So you have the same issue. Do we have one state or two states? Do we have Trump now who's supporting the Israeli prime minister? What are they going to do? Are we going to lock out the housing units being built, taking up Palestine? Are we going to allow Palestine to have another state?
The settlements are and always have been illegal, according to international law. If Trump, and I think he will do this, if he sides with Netanyahu and then decides that the settlements are suddenly, part of Israel, and all that patchwork of settlements now suddenly is part of Israel, we will not have Middle East peace for another 50 years. I guarantee you that.
And is he going to become the celebrity in chief or the commander in chief?
Well, we don't know about that.
And
let me ask you this. Ron. There's been a big deal made about a perceived relationship between Trump and some of his senior people and the Russian president, Vladimir Putin. How does that play into the Syria situation?
Is it true?
Well, that's another question, but assuming it's true, how does that play into the Syria situation?
What? Two powers come together, both wanting the same thing, there will be a problem. There may be a honeymoon right now. Trump has not yet gotten to a point that he has a decision to make that isn't about himself.
So let me ask you a question, and I think this is another historical parallel. And it's a rhetorical question, but if you look at the relationship between Germany and Russia during the 1930s, remember, Germany trained its entire officer corps in the Soviet Union because they were not allowed to have military training in Russia. How well did the Molotov-von Ribbentrop pact end up by, let's say, June 1941 or so?
History speaks for itself.
Exactly.
History speaks for itself.
And you're going to get the last word on that. Up next, we'll take a closer look at artificial intelligence and its effects on our lives. Stay tuned.